everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you a speed up version of the Art Joy of Sharing live stream show that we had Thursday morning, which is about water soluble media in the form of pencils, crayons, pens. So you can get watercolor out of these products without ever having an actual pan or tube of watercolor stuff. It's still a water soluble media, and that's what we're doing all month of February in Art Joy of Sharing Art Community. We have a hashtag AJOS watercolor, and we've just been showing all kinds of watercolor options on our live stream and on our channels all this month, having to do with that theme for Art Joy of Sharing, our art community on Facebook. If you haven't joined our community yet, there's a link below the video, and you can go over there to Facebook and then answer the questions that come up when you request to join Art Joy of Sharing. And as long as you answer the questions, we know you're not a robot, and we'll, let you join. So I started out with a 8x10 piece of cold pressed watercolor paper that I sprayed on both sides and then taped down to a piece of glass in order to keep it flat while I was doing all this project today. And I wanted to start out with the more creamy, blendable type of crayon, stick, pencil, whatever you want to call it. And so I got out a couple colors of gelatos. I got out some colors of King Art gel sticks, and then also some distress crayons, and I was going for greens and blues. We did decide to be inspired by the February mood board today, and so I wanted to use the blues and pinks and a little bit of green and a little bit of leaf patterning from the mood board. Somebody said once they saw what I was doing, I don't really understand what a chicken has to do with the mood board. Well, the whole thing about a mood board is just to give you some ideas, to spark some creativity. You look at it, maybe you want to do something really literal. Maybe you want to make a painting of a snowman, which is on there, but I didn't want to. I wanted to just use the colors and the shapes. So I got out these stencils that are designed by Trish McKinney for Stencil Girl, and these ones are actually the ones from Stencil Club, but just recently she released some into the general stencil purchasing option that is very similar to these, with leaves that have, some fall leaves that have cutouts and stuff like that. Similar type of look. She also has vines and grasses and all kinds of really cool natural stuff. So I'm using a baby wipe. I did put all the colors on, and then I blended them out with, I started blending with a brush and then ended up blending a little bit with a baby wipe. These soft products are easy to blend, but I did use the rough side of the paper, and so I did get a lot of variation of color and texture, visual texture, which I was trying to make like a background that has, as if you were looking off into a meadow, and it has a lot of different greens and tones in it, maybe some leaves in the foreground. So that's why I got the leaf stencils. Also, of course, there is a leaf print on the mood board. So I had intended to leave the center section white pretty much, and I forgot to do that. And so I ended up going back in with some of the gel stick and the white gel stick and going in and trying to lighten up that center area so that I could draw my chicken. I was talking to my aunt who really loves chickens and has, pictures and figurines and whatever, wallpaper, whatever that has chickens, and she also actually has chickens. So it's just kind of her thing, and it made me think of making a funky chicken for my piece today. Nothing at all to do with the mood board other than the colors, the blues and the pinks and reds that I'm going to use. And then I also used a lot of green. There's a little bit of green on the mood board, but not a whole lot. But yeah, a chicken standing out in the field. So I used that stencil quite a bit, and I put the gel stick through it and then blended it with a brush. That type of a brush is made for applying makeup, but it's really great for stencils, so I use it. And also it blends this creamy type of water-soluble media that's in the gel sticks and the gelatos and the distress crayons. Those are definitely creamy and blendy. You can even blend it with your finger. You can blend it with a baby wipe or, a slightly damp paper towel or something like that. Very blendy stuff. So then I went ahead and grabbed a green Stabilo pencil. Our Stabilo pencils are very water reactive too. So that's really a watercolor pencil. And I'd use the green one and also a little bit of the gray one to draw my image out onto my painting. And then I was using the baby wipe to try to lift some of the color because I know I'm going to use reds and pinks, and red and green are opposite on the color wheel. And so if you mix the two of them together, you get a neutral, or what some people say, mud. So I don't want to mix red and green, really. So I did try to lift some of it. So then I decided I was trying to use all my different types of pencils and crayons and gel sticks and all that stuff on one piece. And so I switched over to the Neo Color 2 water soluble crayon, which is probably my number one favorite, with the gel sticks being my second favorite. And the paper was still wet from my application of the other things. And so when I was trying to draw with the crayon right onto the paper, it really wasn't working particularly well. So instead, I decided to use a palette paper and to rub my crayon onto that and pick it up with a brush. You get a smoother application that way, maybe not as intense, but definitely a lot smoother. So I'm grabbing different colors. Now I'm going to start putting in the pink and red, which of course the chicken has a comb and I don't know what that thing underneath is called right now. A wattle. There we go. It's, and there's orange in the beak and the feet, and I'm starting to apply those colors to make it more interesting. It's not just going to be a white chicken, it's going to be a funky chicken. So I'm using my swatching. I'm looking at the colors and then trying to find the right crayon. For the colors that I wanted, I was going for that burgundy and the pink from the mood board. I wanted those specific colors to get on there. And so just any of these water soluble media, if you can't write it right on the paper, you can always do it on a palette and just pick it up with a watercolor brush. And there's some oranges and some yellows to do the beak and the chicken feet, because you got to do the chicken feet. So, yeah, one thing I did recently, it was actually last Sunday while I was watching our video hop that we do on the Artsy Second Sunday, I swatched all of my crayons, pencils, and all these type of media. I swatched them all. So now I have a card that shows me the colors, which is nice because, yeah, you get an idea of what the color is by what color is on the outside of the crayon or a pencil or whatever, but it's not always accurate. So I swatched them and then I blended them with watercolor to see what they would, with water and a brush to see what they would look like. So now I have these cards that I can find specific colors if I want to. Up until this point, I just grab whatever one looks good. But since I was going off a mood board, I thought I would try to match the colors. So it's nice to have them swatched. I'm usually too lazy to do it. But when you get a new product, you should probably swatch it out to see what it does and what it looks like and what color it is and how it reacts to water, how it reacts to blending with your finger if it's that type of media. So pretty fun to do that. So I'm just continuing to pick colors and then scratch them onto the palette and go ahead and apply them with a brush and water. Now I'm trying to make a little bit of shadows with some blue to go around the chicken and make it stand out a little bit. If you put something darker around the edge, then the thing that's in the center will look lighter. And since I didn't have a pure white chicken there because I used all that green in the middle of the page. I was trying to add a little bit of shadow around the edge to make the center appear brighter. And I was pretty frustrated with myself, not leaving the center portion a lighter color. And I kept fussing about it. And of course, I did put the gel stick over it, but it didn't make it that white. So I finally decided, fine, I'm gonna step away from the pencils and pens and gel sticks for the moment and use some of this Japanese watercolor. This is the Gansey Tambai. This particular type of watercolor is more opaque. It just is. The Japanese watercolors are. They're not gouache, but they're more gouache-like because they're a lot more opaque. So I used that to lighten up my chicken. I used the white from that set to lighten up my chicken a little bit, make her look a little bit more white. So then I thought I would make her more fun by adding some spots, because sometimes white chicken have brown spots if they're a certain type. And so I thought it'd be fun to add a little bit of spots and maybe add some colors, some bright colors or something to make this boring old chicken a little bit more fun. So I put some brown spots on and with a Neocolor 2 directly to the paper. I did dry the paper with a heat tool to, dry it up a little bit so that I could continue to apply more layers. Watercolor is a layering process most of the time, but usually you put one thin layer on and then you set it aside to dry. Then you put another layer on, you set it aside to dry. And of course, I'm on a live stream and I'm doing it very quickly. So here's a Stabilo Woody pencil. That's another option that I used. So I think I used King Art gel sticks. I used a little bit of gelatos, a little bit of distress crayons. I used Neocolor 2 crayons. I used Woody's crayon pencils. And then in the end, I brought in Inktense water-soluble pencils. I think that's the last one. Oh, and then I used a Stabilo, which is a watercolor pencil, a couple different colors of Stabilo. And then, of course, the only other thing is that white paint from the Japanese watercolor set. Because I didn't leave the center light enough. I'm so used to acrylics. I'm used to collage and acrylics. Those are the things that I do most often. So it doesn't occur to me to leave white space because I can always come back in with a white acrylic paint, right? So the whole concept of watercolor and leaving white where you need it is really foreign to me and a little bit difficult, as you can see, especially when I'm not really thinking. So anyway, it turned out fine, and I think it's cute, but I sure was frustrated by not leaving that white space in the beginning. Just frustrated with myself. So now with the Inktense pencils, what I'm doing with them, it's kind of weird. I'm taking the pencil and I'm dipping it in my water. You can see my hand going up to the water and just dunking the pencil. And that moistens the tip of it and makes it able to easily write over here where I want it. Because the paper's still wet, and a pencil on a wet watercolor paper would scribe. It would make a line, it would make a groove, a cut, or whatever. So I didn't want that. So I'm softening and activating the pencil by dipping it in the water. And then I can write on there pretty easily and lightly without scribing into the paper. And I'm looking at my chart and seeing what color I want. Like this color is very similar to the one that's on the mood board, this blue. So I wanted to use some of that. And then I am coming in and blending a little bit with just plain water, blending the pencil, but I'm not blending it completely out. In some cases, I'm leaving it kind of scratchy and crayon-like, because I like the look of that. So I hope you guys have been following along all month with our AJOS watercolor. I hope you've been doing some fun watercolor play. There's so many options with all these different products everywhere, everything from tube to palette watercolors to different types of palette watercolors to all these different other pencils and crayons and things that you can use as watercolor or in addition to your watercolor. I think next week we're going to be doing fluid and liquid type water-soluble media, things that are already liquid, on our last live stream next Thursday. And then we'll be closing out watercolor month and going on to something else in March. So yeah, I'm now just continuing to add color, bright pops of color with the pencils. Some pink, some orange, some yellow, blue into those spots. And then I grabbed some more of that white, another layer of the white. Again, that's from that Japanese palette. Just adding a little bit of highlights still. Multiple layers. This is definitely layered a whole lot. And although it's all water-soluble media, I guess you would still consider it mixed media because I used a lot of different ones, right? Different formulations of water-soluble media. Giving it a good dry down and then just blending, I think. I think I'm blending a little bit. Some of the pencil. And now the Inktense pencil is a unique one. Once it's water activated, it becomes permanent and doesn't move much after that. And since I was dipping them in the water, they really didn't blend out a lot with the brush. They just kind of stayed where they were put. So you do get that scratchy, crayony, pencil-y look on the piece. It's not a lot of blendy going on. Just coming back in with some more white highlights with that white. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's a funky little chicken. And if you did, remember to give me a thumbs up. You can leave me a comment or question below if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I used today. You can subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And you, of course, can join my channel membership. And that gives you content that is exclusive only to members. It's $1.99 a month. And you just can sign up using that little join button. And yeah, you get extra stuff. You also get some little icons and things that you can use when you're leaving comments and things on my channel. So it's kind of fun. I would like more people to join so we can have more fun. Exclusive content comes out with a real-time video on the 15th, as well as a sped-up version of the same video. So come and join me on my channel. It's a lot of fun. Join Shel Circle. So I did add in some little like flower shapes by using a gel stick again through that stencil and some little yellow dots in those and add a little bit more yellow. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.